Morning. So nice. It always does that when you start the show.
Good morning, everyone. It's Miracles and Wonders, live from McGorn Street Studios.
Alive.
That's Mel. She's alive. I'm Louise. I'm alive. And today, for your creative and exciting pleasure, we have a little, that was like a little, I don't know, one of those things that pops up. What are they? A pop-up. Do you want to be a pop-up again? Oh, it's a Naomi Jansen pop-up.
Yes.
Yay, there she is. And today we are going to have live hair cutting on the show. Let's see how that goes. So we were talking about jumping into your creativity. So just to challenge Naomi Jansen, we'll be able to interview her about the creative nature of hair cutting while she's cutting hair. It's going to be fabulous. You're going to get tips on hair cutting and creativity all in one.
There you go. So who's first? Are you going to go first?
Yeah, I can get my hair cut first. That'll be exciting. All right. Oh, hang on. I haven't got my thing on. Keep them entertained.
Yeah, that's my job.
That is your job. That is your job this morning. You've been told that.
Yeah, but you keep forgetting, Louise. I don't listen to you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't listen to anyone but the internal voice. That's the trick. But I am going to eat some breakfast.
And I think most people would ask you the question of how can you tell the difference between your internal voice and
your voice?
For want of a better word,
I can hear your voice from outside. That's how I know the difference between my internal voice and your voice.
I wasn't talking about my voice. I was talking about most people, if you said just follow your internal voice, they would probably say, how can you tell the difference between your own stuff, your own ego, your own whatever?
No, I don't believe in ego.
So no other voices. There's only one voice in your head. I mean, I don't know. I think that's the thing, is people would go, well, how do you know which is the clear, correct voice in your head? Because I think many people have many voices in their head. Or many, things pushing their attention, pushing their...
Yeah, but there's only one that comes from the heart space or the soul space or the space of insight. There's only one that comes from whatever word you want to put on top of that. The other ones aren't really voices. The other ones are just tensions. I'm trying to think of how to describe them. They're more like hesitations and tensions and judgments. They don't feel like voices. They don't feel like an internal dialogue with where your power comes from.
What about you, Miss Hairdresser, Miss Jansen? How do you feel about that? Do you have one clear voice, resounding voice that is the voice of authority of your heart in your internal dialogue, or do you have many voices that you have to figure out which one to go with?
I feel like I have one very clear internal voice of what I would probably call my higher self, which I think is the part of me that's lived a long time and knows why I'm here, what I've done before, my sort of ultimate higher goals and purposes. That's definitely not the voice that's there all the time. But there are occasions where that voice dictates and I listen very clearly. Then I feel like I've got another higher voice that's not as high as that one. And that one is probably more related to this particular lifetime. And that's where it gets a little bit more murky, where I've got to make decisions. And then, of course, I've got all the competing voices that come after that, which are more day-to-day decisions. That's how I see it.
And so what do you do to make sure you know you're coming from your most authentic voice? Or that's not a very exciting word to use, authentic. Everyone knows what it means.
Good question.
It's a question me and Mel have been asking ourselves. Well, I've been asking myself a lot lately. Mel's been asking me a lot lately. You know, what is it that indicates to go in a certain direction? Like when we said haircuts on TV, which voice did you listen to?
That was probably my middle voice that responded to that.
Because that's the relationships in this lifetime.
Yes, that's right.
That's maintaining the connections in this lifetime and the integrity in this lifetime.
Yeah, and just interacting with my environment and my people that I love and want to have an experience with. So that the higher the voice, the easier it is to listen to, if that makes sense. There's less of a decision to be made because it seems clearer.
To follow the directive.
Yeah. For me, it probably comes down to it's around decisions of how much do I want to engage at what level. That's more the decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but when you say, even when you say that the higher the point of contact, the easier it is to follow, that implies a great amount of trust. There is a greater amount of trust if something is easier to follow, because that highest voice won't necessarily send you into the easiest places.
No. I mean that mainly has to do with my loved ones. That really only, connects to me with my love. I think everyone's different for what their higher purposes are here, but for me it's very much to do with my loved ones. So I don't feel like I have to think that hard about it. And sometimes it isn't the easiest option, but it's definitely the easiest decision when I get clear messages about what I need to be doing there.
Yeah.
And probably the other area that I get pretty clear inspiration, I think, is just making what I do valuable not only for myself but for others. That, I'll choose a harder path if I feel like it's connected to that. So that's to do with my work and my studies and...
You'll go the extra mile. Does that mean
do what it's more like what feels like it's meant to be or right to happen. It's to getting out of the way of that and just doing it.
Yeah. So it's not like they give you an easy path and a hard path and you go, I'll just take the hard one.
No, it's just that this is the path.
Yeah.
And sort of get all the other voices or competing interests that are there out of the way to allow that to happen, sort of thing.
What about you, Miss Louise?
Oh, I'm just glad you're not grilling Naomi too hard, because she was starting to articulate wildly with her hands with the scissors in them. I was thinking to myself, this could be like a slasher movie.
Well, it's not over yet.
That could freeze the readings. Yeah, I have a million voices in my head. I have a million competing interests in my lifetime, and I have a million other people's voices in my head. A million competing emotions. in my body, because I think I'm very emotionally driven anyway, feeling driven or something. Which is ironic because we were just talking about yesterday about coming into your heart space and just deciding and being there and not trying and just being there, which is all about feeling. But it feels like there's a competition for that space. Oh, there's that word again, competition.
But I don't know, like, because feeling is quite receptive. Heart space feels more projective. And when you're used to navigating the world by taking in, it is a slight transition to be in a space where you are
Expanding out.
Yeah, still on the level of feeling, but it's a different, it is that inhale, exhale reality. You know, and it's funny because I was thinking about that book. There's a book, I Can Make You Happy. Paul McKenna, I think, wrote it. And it's very practical and it's very habit-driven. You know, realign the axons in your brain and create a different chemical, emotional reality. And it, you know, it completely works if people do that kind of thing, except that and there's another book I'm reading called something about how to be a real sorcerer. And that is saying the same thing. So even from the completely other so-called metaphysical end of the spectrum, they're talking about feelings aren't real. Feelings are your reaction. Feelings are your assumptions. And the CBT, the cognitive behavioural therapy stuff, is the same. They're saying that your feelings are the result of core beliefs and that they're all about your assumptions about the past or the future or whatever's going on. And there's no room in any of those theories for empaths. There's no room for people who actually operate on the planet as receptive. Do you want to break into song?
Distracted by the
Yeah, I felt like we should do Down at Fraggle Rock. Let the children play.
No
worries for another day. Let the children play. Down at Fraggle Rock. Yeah, sorry.
I was hearing, oh, Mickey, you're so fine.
There's no room. Oh, but I'd have to jump up and go down the beach. That would be more exciting. No room for empaths in those course chain of events. It's almost like a chain of
But any of them, any of those doorways that come in,
chain of fools.
Yeah. Any of those doorways that come in about feelings and how to be happy or how to be not in distress or, you know, however you want to frame it. None of them really have any room for people who are being receptive to what's happening around them as a means of their place on the planet. And it's not that everybody is, but there are lots of people who are. There are lots of people, like the stuff that I'll pick up, I'll get really overwhelmed by a certain sensation. And then it's only when I think about what's going on for someone in my reality that it dissipates. It completely goes away. It's this confirmation. It just says, that's who you're picking up on. You're getting a message from this person, and it drops. All of those feelings, all of those thoughts, they just disappear as soon as I recognize where the feelings are coming from. And sometimes it's not that clear. Sometimes it's a client who hasn't come yet. So I get flashes of scenarios and emotions and things that aren't mine, and you don't know that they're not yours. But then when the they get stronger and stronger, and then the client calls to make a booking, and as soon as they do that, all of those feelings come back into your present, and you get a hindsight. They say, this is what you've been experiencing. You've been preparing to see this person, and it was important for you to have their state of emotional frequency in order for you to work with them. So in all of those theories, even the metaphysical ones, they're all saying that as long as you stay in a particular method or stay in a particular mindset, you can avoid those things. And those things are signs of you being out of alignment. And I just think it just doesn't consider people who operate on that emotional language, who need it in order to do their job.
Do you think I'm in alignment? Do you think this is my good side? Oh yeah, that's right. No good and bad. Only yes. Anyway, back to I am in alignment then. I'm perfectly in alignment, exactly how I am right now. What Mel was saying though was me thinking, I'm sorry, it's a bit weird. I'm like in some kind of deep samadhi of head playing with meditation. And then every time I come back into the conversation, I feel like I'm just making light of Mel's very important discourse. But the thing is,
isn't that your job?
Breakfast discourse. No, my job is to ensure that your position of leader of a very important facilitation is enacted. But apart from that, we won't dwell on that for too long because Mel will start pulling faces again.
Yeah, but
look disgusting with egg in her mouth. Oh, there it is.
Look,
she's got her mouth wide open with egg. Really good.
Well, there's toast in there.
What I was thinking was, she actually burnt my toast today to see if I could get crunchy bits in my teeth. I was thinking about, like a lot of those people when they're telling their stories.
Who's those people?
A lot of those people. A lot of people when they're talking about their aha moments. No, I'm talking more about once we've had a transformational experience and we've got some sense of how it works, how we come into that heart space. I was just thinking about how many of them, it's like many of those stories, those aha moments are just actually when you are catapulted into your heart space. Because for so long we work at it and we try and we put in all these processes and we think that A plus B will equal C, and if we do this and do that, if we practice the law of attraction, if we go through this, that, or the other process, through a series of getting closer and closer, we will get closer and closer to being in our enlightened state, or being in the space where we make clear, concise decisions from, or being in the state where we are happy, or whatever it is.
Are you saying this is what happens, or this is what you want to happen?
No, I'm saying this is what we've been, as a culture, we expect things to be some kind of linear progression. But you start far away and you get closer.
Yeah.
But a lot of those stories of people going, I had this aha moment, that they just get dropped in. And all you need is to drop in. Like that sense that there is no, set up the heavens, align the stars, and set your internal dialogue to a space where it is operating from the right paradigm or whatever. There is no kind of theory or formula. I mean, you can use all the 7 steps and you can go through all the theories and formulas, but somewhere else there is the simplicity of going, be there now. Be, I don't know, when you drop in, you drop in. There's no sense of, I've got to get things right first. I've got to go and clean up the house first. I've got to go and, make sure all my relationships with my friends are in. I've got to make sure that, I don't know, whatever it is that we this week have put on top of the pile for being good spiritual beings or being good people or whatever it is. Like there's a sense that sometimes even that stuff hinders us, thinking that we have to get certain things in alignment first. We spend so long trying to make sure that the what's that word? You know, like when the stars are in alignment and everything is just so fortuitous, you know, that everything is in the right place to have a spiritual experience. And it's actually much more simple than we've complicated it to be.
Yeah. But I think it's also, it's whatever's, yes, it is all of those things. And
I don't have the right haircut.
well,
I'm getting there. I'm going to be able to be spiritual by the end of the show if I have the right haircut.
how do you know it's right? Who tells you that?
Well, it will be all right. I hope I'm going to cope.
Yeah, but how do you know it's right? Like, what makes it right?
Because Nell will turn around and go, you look great. And Naz will go, oh, I think I've done a really good job. And I'll go, yeah, cool.
So it's other people telling you that it's right.
People will be typing in going, wow, she looks so different. I don't even recognise her.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Look at that girl. People will see viewers coming up, like thousands of viewers tuning in just to see who that girl is.
So what if you really love it, but nobody else sees it that way? What happens then?
Fail. It's a fail.
Yeah.
It's a fail.
See, I remember in primary school they had this, what they called a barn dance, even though it was just in a concrete oval. And I wanted to wear my orange 20s dress. And my dad said, are you sure? None of the other children are going to be dressed like this. They're going to be wearing board shorts and, you know, whatever girls wore. I went, no, I want the orange 20s dress. That's what I want. And I went and I was happy, and everybody accepted that that's the way that she is, because that's the way she's always been. She just does things in her own unexplainable but somehow acceptable way. But it had nothing to do with how they, I mean, there's, you know, obviously there's a kid part of me that just went, oh, if someone throws tomatoes at me, that won't be great. But there was no part of me that said, I need you to say, don't you look wonderful. There was just this, I wanted to wear the 20s dress. I just wonder where that comes from, because we were talking about that yesterday. We were talking about the fact that, you know, is there a point that I transitioned, or was it that there was always such, because I spent such a lot of time in my early development on my own, with, you know, without humans. There were other entities there, but because I spent them without humans, did I not have that layer that needed to be removed?
And it's making me think about, we've been talking a lot about Aboriginal communities and Indigenous people, and the fact that they get pushed out, like difference gets pushed out from the culture that's kind of taken over the planet at the moment, whatever that means. But that sense that if you operate from a different paradigm, there is a sense that it is made more difficult for you to engage. And I'm not sure what that means about Mel's story in relation to Mel's story, but there is definitely a sense that if you are different, you know, you are pushed out of school, it's harder to find a job and sit in a 9-to-5 place, or, you know, you're not the same trajectory as other people, aren't as open to you.
And I think it's also like there was more a sensitivity to the energetic than there was to words and behaviour. I couldn't be in a space like you. At lunchtime at some schools, I couldn't be around other people. I didn't know why. I didn't know what energy was. I didn't understand what was happening, but I couldn't be physically in their proximity. It was overwhelming. I had to separate myself. So even there, I was never really rejected. I just couldn't. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's a physical overwhelm. You can't be near them. It'd be like being near something that's really loud and high-pitched. Although that wasn't the sensation, but that's the amount of repulsion. The strength of the need to be at a distance.
That's just making me think, I wonder if it is still about approval, in that sense that, like someone who's got kind of an indigenous culture who does not gel with the kind of dominant paradigm, they move away from the dominant culture, and the dominant culture goes, no, come back here, you've got to like me. If you don't like me, I can't cope. I'm going to have to smash you. I'm going to have to, not smash you, but, it's not, that dominant culture can't bear not to have everyone say, you look good, you're nice, I like you. It's kind of like the dominant culture's got this really serious neurosis.
I don't know, but that still feels like a reification. That still feels like you're saying, like, the fact that a dominant culture operates as one.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work out what is actually going on. That things can continue down the trajectory that they go down. We still fight each other. We still, I don't know, destroy things. We're still, I don't know, for all we know as a species on the planet about our interconnectedness to other species, we're still slamming other species. I guess that's my, part of my mission is to go, how do we re-engage ourselves in a way that means that other people don't get hurt? Because so many people feel hurt. They feel distressed about the way their environment, other people, the world in general, is operating. That it's not humane. These are the dilemmas I think about when having a haircut. Big questions a lot. Oh yeah, okay, these are the things we think about every day.
I think there's an I.
Do you think about these things, Naz?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. When you're standing at the acupuncture table?
Yeah. I really... What's the hard part? It's, well, I suppose what helps me to be less distressed, because as a child I was extremely distressed about these things, and I didn't really understand, and it sort of felt like that this generation and this time was the worst time for this that there ever has been, but I mean really it's not. It's just that we're so much more able to influence each other by like getting on a plane or television, but and all through periods of time there's been massive periods of genocide, so it's kind of not, but it feels that way. So maybe every generation has felt that way, that this generation or this period of time is the worst time. But I suppose something that's really helped me, or that allows me to separate from feeling totally distressed, is I just ponder on, well, what's the nature of it all. I haven't finished yet.
I was just going to say while you're saying something.
Okay.
Like it feels like you're saying something important and they'd like to see you.
Okay.
Out there in the world.
Is like, hold on, I've got to remember what I was talking about now.
What helps you feel less distressed?
Is thinking of it from the point of view of nature. So nature has light and shade, but it's balanced. So, I don't always like watching the nature programs and the lion eats the deer or whatever. And then, so that's hard, but it's a cycle, it's a balance that, nature's worked out amongst itself over a long time. So, and I think there's a balance somewhere within it all,
Mm-hmm.
or is it an evolutionary process where through the imbalance we actually create something that will counter that imbalance, that will then go on to balance us? That's what I think about. But I just see in my work day to day so much this thing of balance being, you know, out of balance, and it's not about having judgment on being out of balance. It's understanding the fact that we're out of balance that kind of facilitates anything to happen from there. It's that understanding, and like I don't think working in health and working with people you should ever take away their imbalance for them, because it's there for a reason and they've got something to learn. But also as a practitioner, you've got something to learn and to understand. I feel like a lot of the healing just comes in the identification and the understanding of the imbalance. And it should not necessarily be a fight, you know, like fighting cancer, fighting. I can't see that that's, you know, because something else will just inevitably be created. That's the nature of the world, like any kind of health. Because we're out of balance as far as population, this is my theory, I'm sure other people have got it as well, but because we're out of balance, we're more like a virus on the planet, in the sense that we're out of balance, we're over-consuming. There's always a natural, you end up killing the host or making the host inhospitable, and it kills you kind of thing. So in epidemiology and all of that, we're basically creating an environment that's going to be unhospitable. So if we cured cancer tomorrow, which would be wonderful, unfortunately, my belief is that because we're out of balance, a new health problem would just start to materialise. Because there's an aspect of population control, because in nature we're out of balance. And that's sort of, if you take it down to the micro of microorganisms, that's what will happen, you know, with microorganisms in disease and whatever. So I just feel that to understand, so I suppose I'm in two minds what I'm trying to say, and this is, I haven't solved this for myself, is one, is it a matter of that do we avoid the calamity and seek to come back into balance? Or do we allow, because of the numbers, we allow the calamity, which will have its own natural repercussions, but then have a result of perhaps bringing about more balance? Is that clear, do you think? Yeah, so I'm very much on the fence on that one. As far as which way, I don't know, because when I think about trying to push the numbers back the other way, that doesn't always feel possible or like the correct direction. But then when I think of people who have tried to, and I think what they mean to the human race, people who have really put themselves out there for change for the planet and stood somewhere and sacrificed a lot themselves, that does a lot for the human spirit. So I sort of think, well, you know, imagine if we didn't have that at all on the planet, if everyone was just like, oh, well, I'll just let this calamity occur and we'll see where the cards fall. That doesn't have the nicest energetic either, you know what I'm saying. So any thoughts on my...
Well, I was just thinking, you know, because you are, for those of you who have not met Naz before, because she's been on the show before, although it would appear at this current point in time that she is a hairdresser, that is not her core function in the universe. She is also a nurse and mainly a acupuncturist. And so I was thinking about, you know, in terms of both Chinese and Japanese acupuncture, because I know the theories are slightly different, or they take their focus in different directions. What is the what would be the, not diagnosis, but the reading of the situation from that Chinese medicine, from that medicine perspective?
I'm going to have to think about that, because I think that's such a good question. I mean, if you took it...
Because if you do, if you're extrapolating it that we are like a virus on the planet at the moment, and we are destroying the host, that sense of,
so I suppose it's...
in the most intrusive way, that will restore balance.
Well, okay, if we look at it like that, so on a human's body, you could say, so if you worked on the theory that we weren't native to this planet, we didn't belong to this planet, so the animals and the plants and everything belong to the planet, that's the body, and we are invading. That's one way of looking at it. So we would be an exterior pathogen. So you deal with exterior pathogens by getting rid of them. But so that's not really what we're going to go with. So, but what does an exterior pathogen do? Okay, it creates an unnatural imbalance of yin and yang in various areas of the body. So one aspect of looking at it, if you have an exterior invasion of wind cold, you get chills and fevers, you feel achy, you get a headache, maybe you get a runny nose, something like that. So they're symptoms of an imbalance of hot and cold. So you've got basically the exterior pathogen comes in, stops the circulation of qi, the defensive qi that's circulating around your body and sort of through the skin, which is a defensive qi. That qi also has a function, so it doesn't just have a function of protecting us, it also has a function of warming us. So as a repercussion, you start feeling cold because the qi is not circulating properly. So when you treat that in Chinese medicine theory, you not only get rid of the pathogen, you regulate what is natural, which is that warming circulating function. So part of your treatment will concentrate on getting qi circulation flowing as well as getting rid of the pathogen. So from that perspective, I suppose what you're looking at is identifying hotspots where there's an imbalance. So we would, generally speaking, it's usually an imbalance of hot or cold. It presents itself. So I suppose you could say on the planet we would have, the key spots that maybe are causing problems, or not are causing the problems. Identifying the key areas. It's like, what I love about Chinese medicine is that you use the symptoms to guide you to what is underlying the imbalance. So I suppose you're looking at spots of war, pollution, where the symptomology is showing itself. But you don't just treat the symptom. And you have to address what's underlying.
If we're not an external pathogen, though, if we're an internal one, if we are something in the system that's gone wild,
in traditional medicine, my understanding is there's I can't remember the exact number. I think it's the 7 external evils, which are the weather.
Yeah.
And pestilence and things like that can invade our body, and I think it's 6 internal evils that pretty much all that other imbalance is associated with emotion, imbalance of emotion. So, and then those emotions are associated with a particular area in the body or organ and energetic. So grief is the lung, fear is the kidney, anger and worry is the liver, and overthinking is the spleen. So ultimately, there's many different ways. I'm not saying that's the only way of looking at it, but that's certainly one of the traditional ways of looking at is really, it's very heavily associated with emotional imbalance. So I suppose from that perspective,
Yeah,
you'd be looking at the emotional imbalance.
I go with the emotional imbalance.
Which, what I also like about, the work that I do is that a lot of practitioners that have been, I have a teacher who's from overseas, and he's a practicing Buddhist, which is his native religion. And he talks a lot about, and what I've found with him is that he truly has no judgment on emotion or emotional imbalance. It's just something to understand. And also it's excellent because it's telling you what the imbalance is.
Yeah.
So there's no difference between I've got a headache or I'm angry all the time.
Yeah.
They're the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. That tells me what I need to work with.
Yeah.
So I quite I'm certainly not there. I'm raised in a culture and have had my own experiences where I've ended up with whatever reaction to that. But I've noticed how neutral he is.
Yeah.
I like that. I'd like to think that I can model myself on that and, learn, practice that as much as possible.
Yes, because that concept of pathology often blames the patient.
Yeah.
And getting out of that idea that, someone's doing something wrong rather than there's some insight to be gained from their experience.
Yeah, it's so interesting. In that paradigm, there's almost no blame or responsibility assigned to the person, to the individual at all.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
And it's funny that whether you're going to a hairdresser or going to an acupuncturist, that sense of, the emotional imbalance, someone's ability to just talk their emotions out or to have an experience with another person where they get to feel what's going on, have a space for their experience to be shared, honoured, validated, whatever it is. There's, when you think about it, so many people do go to somewhere like the hairdresser or, even the local shop just to talk about their day, just to get out what's been going on for them, especially in cultures where we are quite isolated if we don't have regular input with other people. All those professions are allowing people to rebalance their emotions too.
No, not really, because I just think you're putting them on someone else. Because that... and again, I just think because of what I wasn't trained to do that. I wasn't trained at the end of the day to go and tell my story. All of my stuff was internal. So I never got into that habit of putting all my stuff on someone else. All of my joys are my own. If I have an insight, it's an internal experience. It's not something that I have in a relationship with someone else. I mean, I'll wax lyrical about philosophy and the nature of existence and whatever else is going on for hours with another human being, but everything that comes back to what's going on for me, why is that pounding in my head, what happened for me today, etc., etc. For me, that's all internal. I'll write it down. I'll share it if I'm forced, but I don't feel comfortable just talking about, unless it's there's a reason to share it with someone else, that empty conversation that people have, that, that kind of tell me I'm right, tell me I'm good, tell me I'm, back me up conversation. I was in traffic and this happened. Oh, isn't it crap when that happened? Oh, everybody can feel the same way about that. There's a sense of being reinforced in whatever that experience was. It just feels a bit alien to me.
I'm just wondering then, what is a good reason to share your experience, or not a good reason, but what is a
Yeah, I mean, when you say good reason,
purposeful
I understand
whatever
what you mean.
reason to share your experience? Why would you? When would you find?
I
don't know, because they still go advantageous or beneficial or whatever. Like, why would you? What is the purpose of coming together with other people and sharing the human experience?
Yeah, but the human experience is different to just going, this is what happened to me today. The human experience is everything that happens when you're together, whether you're verbal or not.
I do the back after the show.
Yeah,
around here.
Sounds good.
Oh, do a little thing.
Perfect. All right, we're gonna tag.
Hands are warm.
I'm wondering if we should just get you to swap chairs and then we can do the hairy thing over here.
Right, I'm not doing it in my dressing gown.
Yes.
Well, I just wonder how helpful it is if people are constantly reinforcing their experience of the day in a way that's just reinforcing the pattern of behaviour that's keeping them in the distress, that's keeping them in the what you call the paradigm. If there's another means of, hang on, I've done it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, unless you have a philosopher or a acupuncturist at your local shop that you stop at on the way home, that you can have that different perspective. Someone who's going to hold you to what you really believe in. Because I think that's the conversations I want to have. I want to have the conversations that say my spiritual world is not separate from the rest of my reality. The beliefs that I have carry over no matter what's going on. So how do I navigate this situation? Oh, hello. People are talking to you. This is good. Keep it like that.
We're also running overtime with our headlighting experience.
Yeah, so if it is someone that holds you, and it's not to hold you as in didn't you say this last time, it is to ask you questions. It is to get you to have your own, oh, that's right, that's what I believe in, isn't it? I wonder where that other stuff is coming from. So that it's never the other person, because the other person can't know what's really underneath. All they can do is ask you questions so you can get closer. And even in that dropping in, when we were talking about that dropping in, there still feels like there's a need for people to be able to tell their story from that heart space. Not from the heart space and then from the heart space, not from the heart space and then from the heart space, just to have a sense of where the tangle or where the separation or where the resistance, whatever words people feel comfortable with, is still active. Because all of that stuff, like Naomi said, is just a message. It's just a means of gaining insight about your experience. And it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It's not, for me, there's no, because at one point you'll get somewhere and then you won't ever have to have any messages come to you because you'll just know everything and do it automatically. It just feels like at every moment you have what you have. You have your experience. and you are always doing the best you can with what you have. At no point are you ever, if you're not behaving in a certain way, it's because you don't have the tools or the models to adopt that certain way. And if you don't have the models or the tools to adopt that certain way, and someone around you becomes conscious of that and they feel it's their job to teach you, then they have to figure out how you learn. They have to figure out why you want to do it differently, and then they have to figure out how you learn, and then they do their job. And we all share the tools and tricks and whatever it is, but we do it from how does it serve them, not how does it make my life easier.
Mm. Oh, I'm just sitting here thinking about the kids at school now. Because they are being managed, their behaviour is being managed, but, well, it feels like not sure, because I still come back to the dominant paradigm is that behaviour is to be managed. I don't know, you know, like there is a sense that nothing we're doing at the moment is about going, how is this going to be in the whole's best interest?
But if you stay focused on what you think is not working, then that's where your energy is. If you stay focused on, oh, the paradigm's bigger than me and I'm never going to have an impact and nothing I do will ever be taken on and I can never come up with a system that they will accept and kids aren't going to benefit from anything that happens to them, blah, 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 then that's true. But if you don't hold on to the idea that the paradigm is bigger than you and is a big, nasty conglomerate of things all working against you, then you can do whatever you want. There's room for you to just take this moment for what it is.
Is that question that Wayne Dyer was asking in the video yesterday? I think it was Wayne Dyer. Is it, do you live in a friendly universe or do you live in a benevolent universe, a kind universe, or do you live in a angry, aggressive? I can't remember the word was.
Psychotherapeutic question. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it will.
Well, that's
what you think it will be.
That's the question. That's the. Is life happening for you or to you? You know, whether it's kind or not, is it happening for you or to you? And if all you have is this moment and you can stay, and you know the most powerful thing you can do is be yourself in your heart space, is that what you're doing?
And then we come back full round to the question of how do you determine that for yourself? How do you do that for you? Because everyone will have a different. Everyone has a different experience to walk into that place. And when each person has an experience of that, they then have their own way in.
Of insight, their own experience of that.
Well, I keep thinking about the sense of, you know, the journey, the search for it, the seeking of it. You know, it feels like humanity overall has been on this spiritual quest for a long time. You know, seeking nirvana, seeking heaven, seeking whatever, seeking happiness now, seeking, you know, abundance, whatever it is. Oneness, yeah, oneness.
Yeah.
So it just feels like we have been on some kind of quest, and if we have an experience where we go, oh, that's it, I've got it, I get it now, it feels like that, then we go, oh, how did I get there? I want to recreate the model of, that model that I used to get into that embodiment of that consciousness. Just that sense of how that then gets us stuck again, because we're trying to find a certain way, we're trying to recreate something that is about it being unique each, in each moment. It's about having how it is. It's not always going to feel happier. It's not always going to feel blissful. It's not always going to feel a particular way, or be a particular way, or look a particular way. Well, people, we just didn't consider that hairdressing was such a fun sport. And the radio show's nearly over. And Malinsky's halfway cut. She's half cut.
Half cut. Well, I've made a decision.
Yeah.
Well,
the hairdressers
I have
come
an
to a
opinion,
decision.
which is that your hair's grown out really nicely from the last time we cut it. And we've got two options.
Get rid
And
of
being
this.
that, okay, that's what we'll do then.
I'm not worried about the.
Because I was going to say you can grow it out a bit more over winter
Okay.
and then cut it really short in the spring.
Yeah.
Or we can just, you want to get rid of you need all that length off. You want to, or do you want to do that?
Yeah, just give me a helmet. That's good.
Oh, yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's been a pleasure philosophizing with you over haircuts. Any last famous hair quotations that we can carry through into our daily life this week? From a hairdresser's point of perspective, what's been running through your mind as you've been sculpting, working magic?
Would be to touch each other with
No.
Touch each other with care.
care. Let your intention of care come through, just with whatever activity. Yeah.
With whatever activity. All right, go out there and touch each other with care, whatever activity. So it's goodbye from the hairdresser, Naomi Jansen. Also acupuncturist. If you need your eyes fixed, especially go to the School of Natural Medicine, or what is it?
Australian Centre
for Natural Medicine in the Gold Coast. And they do have clients from all over the world who are getting their ophthalmic eye care taken care of. Very special treatment. Very much care taken in the touching and the poking and prodding with needles. And from the client,
I would say be a pathfinder. That's what I would say. Instead of a seeker of some goal at the end of the tunnel, be a pathfinder. Have the experience. And it's much more exciting.
excellent people. Well, we will see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
Peace and have fun. Ciao for now.